They said it wouldn't last, and they said that you can't drive profitable and incremental revenue through the affiliate channel. But here we are, 20 years later, and the affiliate channel is alive and kicking and generating profitable revenue for thousands of retailers across the globe. Hi, I am Jamie Birch, your host of the Profitable Performance Marketing Podcast, where we talk to some of the industry's best and brightest about their careers, about leadership, and about how to drive profitable revenue through the affiliate channel. All right. Thank you for joining us on the Profitable Performance Marketing Podcast. I have an awesome guest today. Just finished recording our conversation with Dave Naffziger from Brandverity, the founder, recently acquired by Partnerize. But before I get into his introduction and to the podcast, let me talk about a few things. If you don't know who I am, I'm Jamie Birch, CEO and founder of JEBCommerce. We manage affiliate programs for our clients. Now, right now, if you are wondering what you need to do to make sure your affiliate program is top notch and is all set up to survive the current turbulent times. We're recording this July 2nd of 2020. You not only want to survive, but you want to thrive. We've created a 20-step guide called Affiliate Marketing Strategies to Survive and Thrive. And in there, we talk about every aspect of your program and how you can make sure that your program is set up to be successful as you can. So Dave Naffziger, the founder and CEO of Brandverity. If you're not familiar with Brandverity, they do some awesome work to make sure that your brand is protected in paid search, but also with compliance. So we talk about all sorts of stuff today. We talk about his career and some of the milestones that he has had, his startup history, and how in the world he went from a civil engineer in the Air Force to running one of the prominent vendors in the affiliate marketing space, and what that journey was like. So we talk about all sorts of stuff. And I discovered that the origin story of Brandverity is the identical situation that I explain to people when I tell them they need Brandverity. So it's been awesome. We talk about the acquisition and his first call that he made after that, and all sorts of stuff in between, as well as how do you manage a team in times like this, and leadership lessons and things like that. So if you're an advertiser and you're thinking about your affiliate program and wondering if you're getting the right sales, if you're paying for too much, and if your other channels are protected with what they're spending and how sales are being attributed, I definitely want to recommend you listen to this podcast all the way to the end, because we talk about specifically the problems that Brandverity solves, how it protects you as a brand, and the many unique ways that nefarious affiliates can be targeting your brand, can be taking credit for sales. They shouldn't be. And Dave shares with me one pretty outrageous story that I never heard of before, of how one affiliate was really doing a pretty innovative and creative way to get commissions that they had not earned. So you want to listen to that. It's a really great podcast with a phenomenal guest, a guy I have a tremendous amount of respect for and has been a good friend for a long time. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's just dive right in to our conversation with Dave Naffziger. All right, Dave, welcome to the Profitable Performance Marketing Podcast. I will do my best to not go into my radio voice. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. I'm always excited to chat with you. Over the years, we've had some really good conversations about affiliate stuff and performance marketing and compliance and affiliates doing things in search that they're not supposed to. And then we've had some really good conversations about just life and life as a founder and a startup founder and a CEO and stuff like that. So I was excited when you accepted the invite and during our prep call. So I think today's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks again for having me here. I've always enjoyed our conversations and almost always walked away with something that I could take away as well.
Great. Well, you guys, you're in Seattle, right?
We are in Seattle.
So you guys have had an exciting couple of weeks over there, and I think I saw that they're breaking up the, is it Chaz or Chop?
Chop.
Chop.
Yeah, no, for sure. I would say Seattle, I think, has really felt itself somewhat at the cultural center of the Black Lives Matter movement,
Hmm.
and certainly a lot of the folks on our team have been out with the protests, and me and my daughters have gone to the corner a few blocks from our house where a few folks gather in the evenings and carried signs out as well. So it's certainly been a big part of our world over the last few weeks.
Yeah, definitely. If it has been a crazy first 6 months of 2020, we're recording this July 2nd, and it has been uncertain
Yeah,
from the outset, right?
I think I read a fun quote that was something along the lines of, uh, it feels like the phrase "hindsight is 2020" has a special meaning now than it maybe did before.
Yeah, something's 2020. I saw someone a meme that showed someone putting a gremlin into the sink and said, "Are you ready for July?" I'm like, please, no. That me understanding that meme dates me significantly.
Yeah,
But
most days both.
so, how did you guys react at Brandverity? Were you already remote? Did you move remote sometime in February or March?
Yeah, so we followed. We weren't already remote. We've got two primary offices, and then two remote folks. Certainly the offices in Seattle, and then we've got a team in London. And as COVID-19 spiked in Seattle, and Seattle was certainly at the early on the detection timeline of learning that there was a problem. We followed sort of state and local guidance, and I want to say, we made work from home sort of universally encouraged. I think a little bit before the city did, and then sort of, so I guess it's all in March, and then when sort of closed the office and went full remote, pretty much at the start of the whole process.
Yeah, we were similar in that. Now, what have the challenges been as a leader? What challenges did you find that you had that when everyone went remote you didn't have before that?
Oh man, it's a great question, and I'm sure a lot of organizations have responded in different ways and experienced it in different ways. In our case, because we've had some remote staff and a remote office, I think at least from a systems and processes and technology standpoint, we are relatively ready to go. We relied on Google Meet pretty heavily. I think it was maybe even called Hangouts back then,
Hmm.
and we tried to document many of our meetings and key decisions so that folks could see them. But the hardest thing has just been the loss of that sort of interpersonal connections, and video goes a long way, but it just doesn't quite capture the body
Yeah.
language and the sentiment and the feeling. And I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit later, but going through an acquisition
Hmm.
with everyone remote and not being able to be there in person and sort of talk to the team and understand their excitement and their anxiety and the full range of emotions. I felt like I got sort of a lower quality version of it over video chat than what we could ever really do in person.
When I heard the news, and we'll definitely talk about it later on, I didn't even think about that. There's an excitement you guys get to share together, high fives and hugs and all of that you don't get. And did you feel? I mean, was there a feeling of like this had robbed you of that moment, like an acquisition, an exit is amazing. That's a huge milestone. Was there any feeling of like, oh man?
I still feel that moment's coming. I think, the truth is the anxiety of the change was probably much greater for the team than I really could anticipate. We
Mm.
we made the announcement to the team and later to later publicly about the acquisition, kind of was like mid or late April. So right in the midst of COVID-19 shutdowns,
Yeah.
and we've certainly had customers that were pausing their accounts, and the uncertainty in the world was tremendous. And this was something we had been working on since January, so I had certainly acclimatized to the idea well before most of the team. And when we told the team, I was excited about the announcement. I wanted to sort of share that enthusiasm. I didn't recognize immediately, and this is one of the things that happens when you're remote. It's much harder to do, is recognize that the anxiety of the announcement, what that might mean for the team, and
Yeah.
sort of people are. I'm sharing excitement about what we can build together, and there are people on our team, wondering whether they'll have a job. And I hadn't done a good
Yeah.
job of communicating beforehand or during this that this is a growth story. This is an accomplishment for us all. This creates great career opportunities for the team, and so on. And so it definitely was much harder and much different, and much less successful of an announcement in the midst of COVID, and doing so while everyone was remote.
Damn you, 2020.
Right?
And what I when this all happened, I reached out to my mentors and said, "Okay, now this is different. What do I need to do?" And they said, "Transparent communication,
Yeah.
and often have that transparent communication, because it's so different. You're not getting that. I used to. One of the struggles I had as a CEO, and maybe you had this too, is, but I feel emotions a lot. I'm a feeler, and so if I just had a difficult conversation with something unrelated to work, and I walked around the office, with a sour face on, my staff could interpret that as related to
Totally.
them,
Yep.
and so I really started to focus on, when I'm in the office, I need to make sure that I have that, the proper energy around, and that can really help when you have new things, and things are changing, and things like that, and you lose that in the remote. It's really hard. Did you guys
Totally.
do anything to recreate that, before, after that acquisition announcement?
So certainly, as uh, COVID related uncertainty increased, we were very quick to increase the frequency of our communications with the team, increase the frequency of our respective meetings. Our leadership team went to 3 times weekly from 1 times weekly meetings.
Hmm.
We went from we would get maybe 80% of the staff at our weekly all hands, and that sort of began to bump up against 100%. And so we added in um, a, a weekly email to the team, kind of updating them on things. And so we certainly increased the pace with which we communicated, and tried to be much more intentional about sharing what we were seeing and experiencing as a business. Um, and then certainly post acquisition, we're finding sort of a new cadence of communication with the folks to ensure that everyone feels connected to our new broader business, and to our new sort of other employees, new team members. Um, we still haven't, I'd say, celebrated properly. We'll do that once we're able to get together as a team again. It's a thing that I feel like just has to be done in person.
Oh yeah, the team deserves it. You deserve it. Uh, that'll be fun. Now, I want to get into the acquisition, because I'm super excited for you, and want to talk about it. But tell me, how did you go from? I saw that, and I didn't know this. You graduated from the Air Force. Were you in the service? Uh,
Yeah. So uh, I've been, let's see, I went through MIT on an Air Force ROTC scholarship.
oh,
And those scholarships typically come with a 4-year active duty commitment. So I graduated, this is going to date me, but I graduated in 1998. At the time I was graduating, the Air Force was in a drawdown. And so they no longer needed all the second lieutenants that they thought they would need
hmm.
when they originally contracted me. and everybody else for that matter. And so they created a system to allow the folks who have gone through ROTC to, instead of serving a 4-year active duty commitment, to serve a 6-year guard or reserve commitment. So I went directly into the Maryland Air National Guard and became a civil engineer there, and did so while holding a normal civilian job. And so the traditional guard reserve model of a weekend a month and 2 weeks a year,
Hmm.
was very much my world. Although the pace was actually much higher than as advertised, and I had a phenomenal experience. I stayed in that civil engineering unit well past the 6-year commitment. I think I was there 7-8 years, then transitioned to a cyber warfare unit within the NSA, and worked with that group for additional 4, and probably would have stayed with it, but as I'm sure you can speak to, between family and
Mhm.
company, my time for other things really dwindled, and I had to make some really hard choices about prioritizing my time, and that wasn't a thing that it was such a big commitment, and I really needed that time to be with family and business, and so I uh, left the guard service, which was sort of active duty. After 12 years of serving, which is well past age of commitment. So I feel like they got a good
Wow.
deal on their initial scholarship.
Wow, that's fantastic. So first, thank you for your service. And second, was the Air Force something you always wanted to do?
Hmm.
Um, or was this, how did that come about?
You know, I didn't grow up wanting to be in the military. I definitely grew up and remain a very proud American, and loved the idea of flying. Even though I never flew, right? Like, it wasn't a part of the thing, but like, it just sort of seemed like a good way to contribute to this thing that has really created a ton of opportunity for me personally, and certainly my family as well. Um, and it sort of was both an opportunity to fund my education, but also contribute to something that I found to have been really important to me in my upbringing.
So how did you go from civil engineering
Yeah.
to
So
how did you get to affiliate marketing?
yeah,
I want to hear all about it.
I'll do the abridged version. My undergraduate degree was in mechanical engineering. The civil engineering I did in the Air Force was really the closest I came to ever truly using that engineering degree. My civilian job when I graduated from my MIT was to work as a management consultant at Bain and Company, and so like zero technical applicability. Although it helped me develop really good Excel skills, and I feel like my technical background helped frame that. I was only there for about 2 years, and this was 99 ish, and a few friends and I, felt that we should start a company. We didn't really know what it was going to be, and so we all quit our respective jobs and began working on a startup. I don't remember exactly what the initial concept was, but I'm sure it would have crashed and burned. And along the way, as we were networking with other folks who had launched and built companies to sort of to learn and understand their world, uh, we met a team that was launching a company, and they had way more experience than we had, and they made the offer for us to join as what was effectively sort of a junior co-founder role. Um, so myself and my two friends helped launch this company called Quova, which takes IP addresses, the sort of the envelopes that are used, or the addresses that are used to send traffic back and forth across the internet. And we build a technology that maps those IP addresses to geographies. My role there was initially in a business development context. I later went on to run the research team that developed the algorithms that relate IP addresses to geographies. So I don't know
Wow.
whether Google still uses Quova, but there's a point in time where when you would do a search on Google, uh, Google would use your IP address and check Quova's data to figure out where you're located, and then present targeted AdWords based upon that geography. We certainly sold it, to for targeting online, but our primary buyer was someone, typically an e-commerce company that was trying to seek out fraud. If somebody was using a credit card with a billing address in Coeur d'Alene, a shipping address to Miami, which is known for freight forwarding, and a IP address in, let's say the Ukraine, that might suggest that something untoward was happening with the transaction, and that the e-commerce company probably wanted to look at it a little bit closer.
Yeah.
So I worked with them for 4 or 5 years, and moved back across the country. That was in the Bay Area to support my wife's graduate school program, and found working remotely unrewarding, and began to think about what to do next. I connected to a few of the early founders at Quova, and one of them was launching a company that was a Yelp competitor once upon a time. I ended up joining, it was called Judy's Book. I ended up joining Judy's Book in Seattle. And that's what led me to move out to Seattle. And Judy's Book was, less of restaurant reviews and more of reviews of local service providers. And we were really trying to figure out our business model. This was, pre-mobile. And I think that was really one of the key trends that, we didn't see as a business. But as we were trying to figure out how to make money, we became an affiliate. So much like, many other content sites out there, many other review sites, Judy's Book was an affiliate, and it was a new world for our team. At Judy's Book, I ran the engineering team, and we had folks, running marketing and sales and so on. And we began to get lots of visitors to local reviews of local stores. On those reviews of local stores, and this might be a review of like your local Gap store, we started putting coupon codes. A very familiar world, I think, to many in the performance marketing industry, and those began converting. And so we were, for the first time as a business, starting to see money. And so our marketing team, liked what they were seeing, and so they did the thing that seemed most obvious to them at the time, which was to go purchase some AdWords to that page. And I think you might know sort of where this story goes. But, fast forward,
I can see it now.
several days later, and we get an email from the Gap. I think it was the Gap that, said they had found us buying keywords on their, I think it was Gap coupons or something like that. Yeah. And asked us not to do that. And we had no idea that we were violating a policy. We didn't know that, that it seemed like there was a lot of people doing that. And
this is in like 2005.
Yeah, that's right. I think 2005-ish, 2006-ish.
So long ago.
I know. So we promptly apologized. But we noticed that there were a lot of other people doing the same thing. And so we asked the Gap affiliate manager if we could get permission to do the same thing. And the Gap affiliate manager, said, "What do you mean? There's no one else doing this. It's just you." And so some, back and forth between our marketing team and Gap affiliate manager, we were able to piece together that the ads that we were seeing sitting in Seattle on a search for Gap coupons were being reverse geo-targeted. And so they were available everywhere except for San Francisco, where the Gap affiliate manager was sitting. And, having built some of the technology used to do that work, I was like, oh, I know what's going on here. And sort of, triggered this idea in my head that, there was a problem that I felt pretty well positioned to solve.
Oh, yeah. I love this. Keep going.
Yeah. So, ultimately, Judy's Book wasn't successful. We just didn't see the opportunity that Yelp did. And, we had raised maybe $8 million in venture, and ended up returning a big chunk of that to venture investors and closing down the business. And as we were closing it down, I'm quickly thinking about like, oh, what about this opportunity? This thing that's not well solved. Like, man, it sure feels like there ought to be a solution out there. And this was maybe December-ish timeframe in 2007, I want to say. And as you know, Affiliate Summit happens twice a year, usually in January
Mm-hmm.
and usually sometime in the summer. So early January, I hopped on a flight to Las Vegas and walked around Affiliate Summit and asked people whether they had this problem and how they solved it. And I got a lot of nods of people who had this problem and not a lot of great answers for how it was solved. And sort of I asked them if they had a solution. Would that be a thing they'd pay for? And I got a lot of yeses. And so that sort of, was sufficiently, sort of enough of a validation for me that there was something meaningful here to build. And it's really why Brandverity started and launched from this focus of solving the affiliate problem, and the problem in the performance marketing space was kind of came out of this early genesis in our focus there. And so, that was the kicker to go build a thing, and went and built a beta version and flew back out to Affiliate Summit in the August. I want to say it was in Boston maybe, and sold our first customers, and then began growing from there.
It's outstanding, and now you can look like we were saying on our prep call, hindsight 2020 takes
Right.
on a different meaning this year.
Sure.
But you can look back, and as you were tying that, you were coming to the conclusion of this story, you can see where the first startup goes right into this.
Totally.
Right. That's a great story. And what I wrote down is the origin is identical to the story I tell of my experience when I'm telling someone they need your Brandverity. So
nice.
It's almost identical to what you were saying. The problem that I had early on was I had a couple of affiliates who got to know me well. And so they not only geo-targeted out where I was sitting at Coldwater Creek in Sandpoint, Idaho, they knew that I traveled to New York for Linkshare's Deal Maker, and that I traveled to Vegas for Affiliate Summit West.
Wow.
And I traveled to Seattle because I grew up not too far from where you're at.
Yep.
And they would target those areas out. But then one day I decided to take my family on a vacation, and we went to California. And I just happened to look one morning, and there were two trusted affiliates that were totally doing everything that they were not allowed to do.
Oh, man.
And that was my impetus to search for something like this. And one of the things I've talked with Steve Denton, Chutes Humphreys, Adam Weiss about is there's an impression of the affiliate channel as less than others.
Right.
And, something kind of off. Yeah, I kind of have to deal with it. And one of the catalysts of that is this and the problem that you guys solve.
Yeah, I think, I really do feel that the affiliate channel gets a bad rap. And I feel affiliates often get the short end of the stick. I think, very much affiliates are at the cutting edge of new marketing techniques, new marketing channels and programs. And you'll find as a new channel comes out or is developing, it'll often be affiliates who really make that channel work and make it hum. Usually before a larger company will have developed something, a meaningful approach in house. But as companies develop their own approaches, as channels become more well proven and more well trodden, those things tend to move in house because the brands themselves develop the staff and the professionalism that they take to it, and they want to own that. And the affiliates who've done the work to build out that channel, often get pushed to, or prove out the channel, let's say, often get pushed to the side as the brands develop their own expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's sort of it's a very unfortunate evolution for many of the publishers in the industry. At the same time, I think it's a real testament to why a company should always have an affiliate program. There'll be things that you can't try or don't have the focus or energy to try, and chances are there's somebody in the affiliate world who's experimenting and proving it out and making it grow. And there's certainly situations where there have been things that just have remained in the channel because the business itself can't replicate it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, along this timeline, at what point did you get married and start a family?
So I married my high school sweetheart.
Outstanding.
We met in high school, and we remained together through college. We went to different colleges. It was sort of, I describe it as
Wow.
the perfect distance for a relationship to survive college. I was in Boston, she was in Amherst, and it
Okay.
allowed us to see each other with enough frequency that we continued to grow together, but it also allowed us to sort of have our separate worlds and understand, build our separate friends and kind of not get lost in a relationship. And so,
Which
we
never happens in
which
college, right?
never happens. I mean, how many friends
Never.
have you seen that just fall off the face of the earth once they get in a relationship in college?
And I definitely wasn't that friend. No way, not me.
Never, I'm sure. Um, we got married in 2002. So this is pre certainly pre Brandverity.
Yep.
But we had our first daughter in 2009. And so Brandverity, I started working on it in late 2007. We incorporated in 2008, sold our first customers late in 2008, and had our first daughter in mid 2009. And so, we were actively in the middle of growing a family, as I was trying to get Brandverity off of the ground. And like I'm sure with your own family and your business, there's so many competing demands,
Oh man.
and it's so hard to figure out, how to navigate all those things. There's always more to do, either to support your family or to support your business. And yeah, there's never
Yeah,
an end.
when are you done, right?
Right.
Or neither. No, what?
Right.
Now, I started 3 companies, 2 that were successful, 1 that was not. And I know with my spouse, I had to ask permission on that 3rd one.
Yes.
Starting a
Yes.
company is hard.
Yes.
How was her, how important was she to the decision to start something else? Was she involved in the company?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely incredible support, Eva, my wife. When I initially launched Brandverity, she was working at Microsoft, and that was huge. Microsoft as a gold standard benefits.
Yeah.
I'm maybe it's in Cadillac plans now. I don't know, but they had incredible benefit plan that made it much easier for me to take that risk. And she was supportive, as I stopped receiving pay and started instead paying other people. And she always had confidence in, or comfort or trust, in the decisions that I was making. And so that support from her was, I cannot overstate it enough. And we've tried to support each other's careers at different points. Certainly, when we moved out to back to Boston for her graduate program, that was a decision we made together to support her. And kind of coming out of that, she chose to support me. And then once we had our first daughter, once I was able to pay myself a little bit of a salary, I guess after we had our second daughter, she then took a little bit of time off and helped navigate them through the early years. And we were fortunate that at that point I was able to support to some extent, uh, you know, that work, before she returned to the workforce. And so it's I'm sure you've experienced a very similar, give and take with your spouse,
Mhm.
but I can't overstate enough, how important that sort of trust, confidence, and support has been.
Yeah, we both have similar first investors in our current
Right.
organizations.
Right.
My my wife did the same thing, and um, we already had 3 when I started JEB,
Wow.
and she went back to work so we could do that. And so she carried 100% of the load, just like your wife. And yeah, I'm learning we have a lot more in common than I thought before we started this.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've learned that, and my wife worked here for a long time, was our CFO.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic.
and so she did tremendous work here, and it was good to work together. On our fourth, she decided it was time that accounting was less interesting than than raising children. So we changed that around. Now, you started having kids at Brandverity. Talk to me about, like, you're building things up, and I know, like, a startup can require, and can use 100% of your
Yeah.
time. What did you find as the struggle? How did you and your wife work through that? Like, starting an organization and taking it to an acquisition and running a family. I just raised my blood pressure saying that out loud.
Well, I
Talk
mean,
to me about that.
you're in it as well. We just had an employee go on our maternity leave, and a bunch of the parents in the company, put together tips and suggestions or thoughts and words of encouragement. And I think one of the things I had written down was that kids, babies in particular, even younger children, have an incredible ability to recognize when you're not giving them 100% of your attention. Um, and I certainly, going into the birth of our first daughter, and I had this view in my head that I'm a great multitasker, and and I had visions of, like, getting emails out, doing calls while I was, swaddling her, or, rocking her to sleep or holding my arms, and that just did not happen. As I'm sure you can attest to. I'm sure
Oh yeah,
most
with a
parents can attest
baby.
to.
Yeah. Yeah. Women
uh,
around the world, if they're listening to this, that have children, are laughing at us right now for thinking that
right.
we could do that.
So I honestly don't know how I got through it, how we got through it. It felt like I would always move from one thing to another, and I do feel that as you become a parent, you find a new reservoir of efficiency, that, or at least I did, that I didn't know that I had before. And so, while my total time available to do stuff, obviously, to do things work related, dropped precipitously, I was, I feel that I also did become more efficient and more effective with the time that I had. You know, I remember
Yeah.
this activity we did in a parenting class we took beforehand, where we had to draw. We received a sheet of paper, and it had a bunch of squares on it, and there was, like, a square for sleep and a square for
They had a
work and
square for sleep.
a square for exercise. And then they gave us 24 Skittles, and we had to put the Skittles, what our world looks like now, on this, like, grid of activities. I had, like, 8 squares in sleep, and, like, 10 or 12 in work, and, I had them scattered around.
Yeah.
And then they said, okay, now take 8 away. And, like, I just remember that moment of, like, I can't, that's not possible.
I can't take any away.
I can't do that. That's not, like, maybe I could take away 2. There's no way.
Yeah, what a great exercise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it was successful. It just made me convince myself that I would be great at multitasking, which turned out not to be true.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I have achievement in my personality, and the
Mhm.
whole child rearing process kind of threw that into question. There aren't enough Skittles.
Right. And remind me again, how large your family is.
I
I don't
have
want to.
4.
Yeah,
And
that's
we had the one thing, and you and I, we talked about this at one of the summits. We have a 24-year-old. He turns 24 today and actually works at JEBCommerce.
that's
Um,
amazing. Congratulations.
and thank you. And a 20-year-old. And then we have, that wasn't enough. So we have a 13 and a 12-year-old. And, like, my lesson on all of that was, once the older kids left the nest, my lesson, or what I learned, is it moves so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the early years of JEB, um, spending too much time either in the business, on the business, or worrying about the business.
Right.
And then that I was blessed with those two, and I do look at it as a blessing, these two groups of children, and some time in between where I had a little bit to look and say, well, I made some mistakes there, and I did the best I could. Made some mistakes. I want to kind of change that. And so, with the second set, I think priorities are more in line. And at least I still work as much, but I
Yeah.
don't worry about
Right.
the job.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And did you, through that building, and then maybe even considering the acquisition, did you find yourself kind of consumed even when you weren't working?
Yeah, for sure. It's hard not to be consumed with either business or family, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
particularly in the earlier stages of both, when uh, you know they need more time to be successful. And I've certainly found, like, it's hard to find time for yourself. And
Hmm.
I'm in this peer mentoring group, and every month we check in on three metrics: company, family, and self. And I always had a pretty great read on, and I could talk deeply about state of company and family. But, like, really struggled to talk about self,
Mm.
because it wasn't an area that like it almost felt, and I think it still does to some extent, like a luxury to sort of spend time on self-care when you have so many other things which are important and pressing
Yeah,
and impactful.
yeah, definitely. Now, uh, let's talk about the acquisition that
Yeah.
recently happened. That happened kind of right in the middle of all
Right in the
this
middle.
turbulence, right? So
For sure.
tell me what you can about it. I'm dying to know. I know the team at Partnerize, and I was talking with Anshu, who's going to be on the podcast in a couple weeks, um, about stuff. And I said, when I heard about it, I thought, these are two sets of really great people. I can see why this is happening. But tell me about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a really great, it's a great team, and great company, and lots of things that I think are kind of fascinating. We um, we actually received an offer from a business outside the performance space, maybe like late summer, and it wasn't the right offer at the time, and we declined it, but we continued to talk to them, and along the way, I hired an advisor to help me evaluate that. And so, we actually ran a process, and the original company we were talking to put together a much more compelling offer. And come January this year, I think that was likely going to be the thing that we accepted.
Mm,
uh, Partnerize closed their round, and almost immediately reached out, and it was such an obvious fit that it quickly put a pause on the process as we looked more deeply at this one.
wow,
And
that had to be
I
hard to do.
oh boy, for sure. Uh, you know I've known the team at Partnerize almost since the inception of Brandverity.
Yeah.
Uh, so dating all the way back to Bayat. A lot of the Partnerize team comes from Bayat. Um, I've gotten to know, particularly, certainly Mal, but particularly Paul Fellows, really well over the years. He was the first company to make a big bet at Bayat, but they were the first company, and he was the first person to really make a big bet on Brandverity. A lot of our early traction, early successes were, certainly OPMs were a really important early customer for us at Brandverity, and really essential, I think, in our establishment and growth. We began to win some brands, but Bayat was the first network that decided that they wanted to make a bet on us. And we were far from a proven prospect.
Hmm.
I think at the point that, it was a relatively long sort of sale process, but it really forced us as a business to up level the quality of the offering and the work that we do. And they Bayat eventually got sold to AOL. AOL eventually sold off Bayat to AWin. AWin, or it was Affiliate Window at the time, Affiliate Window, eventually chose to retire an internal technology that they had built and instead lean on Brandverity technology. And the impact that Paul in particular had on our early growth and that early bet, it's really stuck with me over the years. To be honest, it helped
Yeah.
us become, I think, the business that we became. And so when they reached out, I was sort of instantly excited about working with them as individuals and as a team, and appreciated a lot of what they had done for Brandverity over the years, in different orgs, right? Of course. And we already shared a number of customers with Partnerize. I think there's likely a lot more customers where we could work together. But there were a couple of, I think, really important things, for me that sort of made this kind of the obvious fit. Certainly, those relationships over time. Partnerize has got a tremendous global footprint. That's been, Brandverity has, certainly a strong base in the US. We've got some business in Europe. We have very little in APAC, very little outside of the UK and Europe, some, but not to the extent. And so I think we saw the relationship as a chance to grow our international footprint in a way that has been hard.
Mm-hmm.
Second, it's really interesting to think about a platform or a network acquiring Brandverity. We support a lot of different participants in the affiliate marketing space. We work with brands, we work with agencies, we work with networks, we work with publishers, and I really I wasn't about to go sell a business to an org that was going to shut down one of those. And my fear with many of the networks is that they would sort of make it exclusive to them, and turn it off for other networks. And from the start, Mal and the Partnerize team were like, oh, no, like we understand the role that Brandverity plays in the industry. In fact, we love its role in elevating the industry. We talked earlier about how affiliate marketing has often gotten short shrift in marketing departments, and sort of taking away the concerns of what happens to your brand in a program, really can help elevate affiliate, and it really does, I think, help elevate affiliate, beyond its sort of maybe humble beginnings. And they really valued that role and wanted to invest and grow it, as opposed to sort of using it as a thing that would become a USP, bullet point and strategic advantage. They thought more broadly about, how do we raise the boat in the industry? And so, given our footprint and given our customer base and given the relationships that I personally have built over the years, that was really important and really essential and something I really valued, as we were talking about how we would work together.
That's awesome. Now, when you knew this was going to happen, who's on the other end of the first call you make?
Oh, it never felt certain until we closed. Really? Right. This is the conversation started in January. I waited to become a little bit more real before I talked with my family. I wanted, I didn't want to put them through the emotional roller coaster of this thing that may or may not happen. So they were certainly, I would say as it became more real, they learned about it. We had to brought in our executive team, our leadership team, relatively early in the process as well, and a few folks that supported the diligence process. But once it, finally closed, and was again, this is all happening in COVID, and economic uncertainty is flowing everywhere, and so on. And so, as we're finally closing this out, it was, of course, my wife, and then my dad,
Yeah.
and then my sister, and actually, I would say wife and family. My daughters have kind of been following the process as well.
Oh, that's great. I bet they probably learned a ton and will never forget like that moment.
They, it's interesting seeing something like this, through their eyes.
Hmm.
That uh, it has a very real impact on their world.
Yeah.
I think at the moment, my daughters are like, "Does that mean we can get a dog?" And so,
I love that. Did you get him a dog?
we're still negotiating that as a family, um, much in the same way that we've talked about the time that goes into raising a family and running a
Yeah.
business. We've talked about how we need to contract in the family about how we'll care for the animal, and
We do the same
probably
thing.
nice.
And we have 4 dogs, 8 horses. And
Wow,
we at one point had 32 animals that were not humans on our property out here. We don't anymore, but and there was a contract for every single one.
that's awesome.
Rabbits, lizards, anything.
Yep. So we're working on drafting a contract, and we'll see where we go from there.
That's that's awesome. I love the story. And really, congratulations.
Thank you.
Like I said when we talked on the phone earlier, you guys built a hell of a tool, and everyone we've ever spoken with, worked with at your company is definitely uh, you can see its founder in them, and they're great to work with and really good people, and so it's been a pleasure to watch. Now,
Thanks.
for our
You
listeners,
might see them in the founder. I really
yeah,
feel fortunate and to have worked with the folks that we've worked with, and in many ways they've shaped me. And I think that's been one of the things I didn't anticipate, but I found to be stunningly rewarding about growing a business.
yeah, I've come to this awareness that entrepreneurship is a crucible of self-awareness, and
Hmm.
your employees, like, they learn a lot from you, but like you said, man, you learn so much from them.
Yeah, it's um, it's 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 probably one of the best ways to learn from another person.
So now, for our listeners who are going, okay, well, this has all been fantastic. What is Brandverity? So tell me. Now we know kind of the origin and the
Yeah.
problem that it started with, but tell me more about the problem it solves and how it solves it, because I really think one of the keys that we in the industry need to keep doing is sharing about these tools that solve the problems that keep people from engaging in this channel, or not putting adequate budgets in this channel, or just not really understanding it. So tell us the problem, what it does, how it does it, and all the benefits of working with a tool like this can bring to an advertiser.
At the highest level, we help ensure that brands are safe and protected in the affiliate channel, and that marketing programs are ROI positive, and
Hmm.
that actually collectively add incremental value. We have two services. The first service monitors paid search to ensure affiliate compliance with uh, paid search policies, and typically that involves with ensuring that affiliates are doing the things that they're supposed to do or not supposed to do around branded keywords, use of brand and ad copy, and helps ensure that they don't compete with brands' in-house paid search spend in places where you don't want them to. And then our second service is a web compliance service, and it crawls the web and helps ensure that affiliates are using the disclosure that they're supposed to do. They're presenting content in the way that the brand wants it presented, and are compliant with the various regulations that might impact the industry. So certainly consumer finance, has to do with the Card Act and
Hmm.
our rates and terms correct. It also is applied to FTC disclosures and so on and so forth.
And those can get pretty big fines with those FTC disclosures. Uh,
They can, and there certainly have been enforcement actions in the past. Uh, and at the PMA, we just wrote a response to a call for comments on some of their disclosure guidance that they're working on revising and releasing. And so it's an area that's sort of, I think, that's receiving increased scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it's important, both for brands, but also to ensure that consumers trust all of the participants in the channel, whether it's the brand or the publisher uh, or the words that they're reading.
Yeah, and trust relationships, those are, what this channel is about. And one of the things I've always enjoyed benefiting from with working with your organization is, um, channels, they need to maintain, their integrity in their spend and what it's
Mm-hmm.
bringing in. And it's been a knock on the affiliate industry, from the inception, that, you hear, well, they're just coming in at the end, or they're taking sales I would have anyway. And having a tool where you can limit that significantly in the paid search channel, allows you to have much more confidence that the budget spend you're actually, applying to the affiliate is
Totally.
generating a higher return, um, or is generating an actual return. That
Right.
what you see is what you're actually getting.
I think it really helps, certainly as companies consider launching programs. I think it helps remove an objection to the program, which is that it's going to compete with their existing channels,
Yeah.
because you can't ensure that affiliates are doing what you've contracted them to do. And then it also helps protect the channel within a marketing department, from other folks who are fighting for budget, and like we'll look for opportunities to kind of cast sand to some extent, or toss FUD on the affiliate channel,
Yeah.
with when they might find something which is a little amiss and hasn't been addressed. But by keeping them under control and managed and visible to the right parties, that all can be prevented.
Now, if I'm an advertiser and I'm like, wait, how are they? What are they doing in paid search that I don't know of? What's the most common sort of ways that they will, sort of attack that integrity of other channels, and do things that, are not protecting the brand?
Yeah. So I think the best example, and I think the thing that we see targeted most often, is that an unscrupulous affiliate will they'll run paid search ads on the brand's own uh, own search terms. And so, typically when someone does a search for a brand, like let's say Amazon, uh, they're using search navigationally, and they're going to Amazon to make a purchase.
Hmm.
And so there's really high purchase intent when a search is for the brand itself, and that often means there's not as much competition on those keywords as well, and so it can be really profitable if you're able to, for an affiliate to, or I guess profitable for an affiliate, and costly for a brand to go and purchase ads on searches involving navigational keywords, branded keywords, branded and trademark keywords. And what they'll often do, again, this is sort of the unscrupulous case, and when they do so without permission, there's absolutely a class of affiliates that have built their entire business and do this phenomenally well, and can replace a brand's own paid search team. But what some of the unscrupulous folks will do is they will also use a display URL of the brand itself. And so if you're doing a search for Amazon, you might see an ad that says Amazon.com, and that ad will be listed above the organic listing. And that could be an affiliate's ad. And the user's going to Amazon anyway. They're going to click that first organic listing, or maybe the affiliate displaced the brand's ad itself. And the affiliate just ends up getting a portion of a transaction that would have otherwise happened. And so it's this search on brand terms that is, I would say, and using a display URL in an unauthorized way, that can be most impactful for a brand. And of course, affiliates will go out of the way to hide this. So
Yep.
we talked about reverse geo-targeting, so running the ads everywhere but where you are. They'll do things like run them at night, or
Yeah.
when they don't think you're looking. A few years ago, we saw an affiliate that was exploiting a sort of a loophole or a flaw in Firefox. I'm sure if you remember, browsers, when you click a link on a page and then come back to that page, the link will look a different color. And so this affiliate was buying paid search ads, like we were describing, on branded terms. And when a user clicked that link, they were taken to, for just a split second, a page. And that page would do a bunch of checks on the user to see if they thought it was someone like you or me, affiliate manager, agency, or technology platform. And if the user passed those checks, so they thought it was a normal consumer, they'd send them through the affiliate link. If the user, they thought it was someone like you or me, they would instead route them directly to the brand without the affiliate link. And so you would never know who it was that had sent that traffic. What they were checking in that split second, they were loading about 1,000 URLs, and they were using a JavaScript CSS exploit to see whether those URLs would have changed color. Basically, had the user visited that URL before, and those URLs were things like, the CJ publish or merchant login page, Brandverity's login page was on there. They had Rakuten's Exchange, when Exchange was out on the web, URL on there. Sort of all sorts of signals that might indicate that this person was someone that could be looking for them. And if they were, then they wouldn't show anything that could be used to figure out who it was that was doing the activity. There's a lot of creativity in there.
The listeners cannot see me, but my jaw is on the ground. That is incredible. So, we talked about innovation earlier. Innovation also has a dark side to it. That's it. So you found this out. What did you do? What do you guys do with that?
Yeah. So, we've certainly, it's been and this is, a lot of technology investments we've made over the years. It's very much a cat and mouse game between our discovery technology and some of the bad actors. We filed patents against some of the things that we do that we think are sort of unique and particularly clever for finding bad actors. We're I think often able to trick that person in the middle into thinking that we're a normal consumer and giving us their affiliate ID, so we can report that back to the merchant and they can take the action necessary.
Well, that's awesome. And I know, with our clients, there's a level of comfort and security knowing that we don't have to do that ourselves. We don't, and I don't know any agency that has that sort of expertise and be able to find something like that, nor have the tools. So it's great having you guys on our corner.
Yeah, no, likewise. Thank you.
Yeah. So, love it. It's a great service. If you're an advertiser listening and you're struggling, with making sure that the spend is protected and your brand is protected, you're not working with Brandverity, I definitely highly recommend it. So Dave, I want to thank you. This has been a tremendous conversation. And I've learned a ton about you, a bunch of stuff that, it doesn't really come out when you're sitting at a deal maker table at one of the conferences. So I've really enjoyed this. If any of our listeners want to get a hold of you or want more information on Brandverity, where do they go for both of those?
Yeah. So, certainly Brandverity.com is lots of good content there. My email is dave@brandverity.com. You can just shoot me an email there, and I'm certainly happy to help how I can, whether it's a product that we have or not. I'm always happy to offer thoughts and opinions and help solve problems.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending a little over an hour with me and giving me a view and our listeners a view into your career, the different startups, how that all weaved together, how you managed family, and then the acquisition. And again, congratulations on that. Excited for you and for Partnerize. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah, no, likewise, Jamie. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat more. I always enjoy our conversations and have had fun, so I appreciate it.
All right. that was a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And what a crazy story at the end. So Dave, thank you for your service. Thank you for spending time with me. And remember, if you want to get a hold of him, go to brandverity.com. We'll also include links in the show notes as well. One thing I do want to highlight is how exactly these podcasts are being published. We have a new client, rss.com, and I gotta tell you, getting this podcast live, one of my biggest anxieties was, how in the world am I gonna publish this? How do I make sure it's on all the places where people listen to? And then we started working with rss.com, and they do a tremendous job. Now, I am a little bit technical, but not incredibly technical, and their service made it extremely easy. So the hardest thing I had to do was get guests, record it. And once I had that podcast done, they made it tremendously easy. In fact, when I was done with it, I kept looking around trying to think if there were more things I had to do. So if you're looking at doing a podcast, I definitely wanted you to take a look at rss.com. They handle all the publications, and you'll have a RSS feed of your podcast, and it was tremendously easy. So definitely check out rss.com. Now, if you're running an affiliate program, you're an advertiser, and you need help with anything, I definitely encourage you to go to JEBCommerce.com, check out our blog. We have a bunch of resources in there. I recorded tons of videos in all of 2020, giving you tips and tricks and strategies and tactics for you to do and run a really well managed and successful and profitable affiliate program. So check those out. If you need help, you can email me directly at gethelp@jebcommerce.com and list your problem, and I will spend as much time as I can helping you with it. You can also set up 15 minutes, a half hour, even an hour with me directly by using my Calendly link at calendly.com/Jamie Birch. So don't hesitate to call us for any of your affiliate management questions. We would love to help. And don't forget, if you like this blog and you found it useful, please share it. I bet other people will too.